Hey folks, I'm Melhorn. Fishing from the bank can be a logistical nightmare. Now just getting to where you're fishing can sometimes be a battle, but trying to transport everything you need makes it even tougher. Aside from your rods, reels, and bait, there are a lot of other little things that you need when you're fishing from the bank. In this video, I'm going to go over 10 must-have items that you need before your next bank fishing trip. The first thing you're going to need is a good rod holder. I remember as a kid trying to find that perfect Y-shaped stick to prop my fishing rod up in. Now while that Y-shaped stick will still work in a pinch, there's some much better options out there for you. The two rod holders that I found that work really great are the Cat Force 1 rod holder and the Takedown Rod Holder. They're both very sturdy and they can withstand a pounding from a mallet to get them driven into the ground. Now because they're made out of metal, they're not exactly light, but the trade-off is they're rugged and can withstand repeated use trip after trip. I'm not a big fan of just laying my rods on the ground or across a bucket or a tackle box. That's an easy way to get your fishing rod dragged into the water by a big fish. So using a sturdy rod holder is a good way to protect your investment in your fishing gear. The next thing you're going to need is a tackle storage solution. It can be cumbersome to drag along a big heavy tackle box, so I try to take along what I need instead of everything that I own. Currently when I go bank fishing, I take the rig wrap pack off of my boat and carry it. It has all my hooks, rattles, swivels, snaps, and sinkers in individual storage containers. Now there's a lot of options that may work better for you, so take the time to do some looking, do some checking, and see what fits your individual needs the best. Another thing you're going to need is a packable seat. If you're planning to be out there fishing a while, you probably don't want to stand around the entire time, and depending on what the weather conditions are, you may not want to be sitting on the ground. There are a lot of camping chairs out there that fold up and are easily packable. You can go with a simple one that's very affordable, or a really big, comfortable one that'll even hold your drinks for you. Another thing not to forget is a pair of pliers. A pair of pliers, or a pair that has cutters built in, is a vital tool to have when you're fishing. You can use it to cut line and leaders, and most of all, it's a big help in getting those hooks removed from a fish's mouth. Ideally, you're better off going with a pair that is designed for the fishing world, a wet environment, than to use a pair that you keep in your toolbox at home. A lot of times the pliers that you keep in your toolbox at home are not rust resistant, and when you're out fishing, things are eventually going to get wet and they'll corrode if they're not designed for that wet weather. Another thing you're going to need is some type of lighting, especially if you fish at night. A lot of folks bank fishing, especially in the summertime, try to go fishing at night to avoid the heat. There's nothing worse than stumbling around in the dark trying to find something, or trying to use the light on your cell phone. Headlamps are the way to go. There's a lot of different models out there. There's a lot of different ones that I've used and I've tried. Light band is one that is very impressive, and hybrid light is another one that I really like. I'll put you some links down in the description where you can check these lights out. Another thing you're going to need is some type of cooler. If you're out there in the summertime, you got to have something to drink. You got to have a place for your food, and you need a place for your bait. Having some type of cooler is a must. One consideration that you need to keep in mind though is the size and the weight. While the big heavy roto-molded coolers like Yetis are really nice and really great, they're also heavy. So you may think about going with a soft-sided cooler, or possibly just one that is smaller. One pro tip for coolers is to chill them before you put ice in them. And what I mean by that is take some frozen water bottles and put them in the cooler the day before you plan to use it. This brings down the internal temperature of the cooler so that when you put ice in it, you don't melt your ice trying to cool down the cooler. Another simple item to have that's very affordable is a 5-gallon bucket. A cheap common 5-gallon bucket that you can get at any Walmart or Lowe's or Home Depot is a great item to have when you're bank fishing. One, you can store a bunch of your tackle in it. Another good use is to put your bait in it, especially if you have live bait. If you carry all your tackle down to the riverbank and you forgot your chair, well, you can dump the tackle out and use it as a seat. Now, if you're using that 5-gallon bucket as a place to keep your live bait, the next item you'll need is a battery-powered bubbler. These battery-powered bubblers are available at all your sporting goods stores and even Walmart. They're very effective for aerating your live bait and keeping it oxygenated while you're out fishing. Most of them run off C batteries and they can keep fish alive for hours. Now once you get all this stuff together, you gotta have some way to get it down to the water's edge. Sometimes it's not always easy to take 2, 3, 4, 5 trips, so you're gonna need a cart. Now there are some really nice fishing carts out there that are made specifically for fishing. If you plan to fish a lot, especially if you do any pier fishing, it may be worth making an investment in one of these. For me personally, I go with one of the small foldable wagons that you can get at Academy Sports and other places. They're readily available, they're affordable, they pack up, and they carry a lot of stuff. While you don't have to have a cart, if you have one and can get it to where you're fishing at, life is a lot easier. Now the last item is something that you don't have to have, but man, your life is easier when you have it, and that's a portable battery power supply. These things are not exactly cheap, but they give you a lot of creature comforts whenever you're out in the wild. One, they can recharge your cell phone. Another thing they're good for is plugging in some type of electrically powered LED light. Many of them actually have a light built into them. You can also use an aquarium style bubbler for your live bait so you don't have to burn up batteries. These are not just made for fishing. You can use them hunting or camping or any other time you're working in the outdoors. A downside is they're kind of heavy and they're kind of bulky. The other downside is, well, they're not exactly cheap. So if you can use it for a lot of different things besides fishing, it may be a good investment. Hopefully this gives you some ideas of things not to forget on your next bank fishing trip.